All right, y'all, I'm back and we got a deck, man. One of the reasons why I've been out for a while is because I've had so many projects and this is one of them. And that's part of what this video is about. Yeah, this is the deck that has a bunch of wood rot and we're going to deconstruct this deck, not tear it apart TV style with sledgehammers. And I mean, if you got the machinery that you can haul it all off, that's great. But if you're solo like me, then you can't just knock everything down and turn it into a pile of death. You know what I'm saying? Where somebody's guaranteed to get injured. This was a deck that was built about, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, and it made it. But man, see this wood rot? So originally, and even right there, you see where somebody actually came back and tried to fix it by propping up the top steps, even though the stringer's gone. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. And luckily, nobody was hurt. This deck didn't fall apart, even though I'm not sure how it survived. The crazy part is when I came out and I was coming out here to do the job, I was only gonna do the stairs. That's the only thing I was contracted to do. Replace the stairs, because obviously you could see where they were walking down the steps and it was just dipping down in a bunch of spots, right? But that's part of what this video is about. We're gonna deconstruct the deck, but it's also, what do you do when things change on your job, right? You have a job, you have the estimate, and things don't turn out the way they seem. Matter of fact, I mean, think about it. If this rotted this bad, what if it turns into a full, a deck replacement, a full rebuild, right? What do you do in that situation? We're gonna get into all that, but first, let's take a look at this wood rot real quick and talk about why it's here. If you see that stringer right there, man, that stringer is so saturated. And the thing is, when I was doing this, it hadn't rained for like a couple of weeks and it was just soaked. And the reason why, I remember when I was an insulator, we used to do the air seal package. Go around the house, you do foam and caulk, and that must have been when the guy built this, or the builder or whoever built this deck. I mean, he did the caulk package. I mean, he was trying to wrap this thing so tight that it wouldn't get any water in, which is impossible. It's impossible. That's not what the deck is built to do. Literally the opposite. You gotta let it breathe. So as you see, these things are gone. Let me say this before we move on, is that I'm not here to bash whoever built this. It is what it is, man. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what is going through his mind. He didn't have the what I would consider the basics down. And that's part of what we have to talk about. I don't care what you're gonna build. You gotta have the basic fundamental knowledge of the building process. I mean, you see right there, they put caulk on it with the idea as that they got to keep the water out. Like they were building a house. But the concept of a deck is it's gonna be outside. It's gonna be in the elements. The wood is not gonna be protected, so it needs to be able to dry out. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's just he would have probably avoided most of this, not all of it, because when we dig a little further, we're gonna find some other issues. But these are things that I want to show you, just in case you never built a deck. But I'm gonna keep talking about the lost art of figuring things out. Okay, that's one of the things that I preach about, is that, but in order to be able to figure things out, you gotta have the fundamental knowledge. Like, I didn't build this deck. I gotta be able to come to this deck, in any deck, and understand the structure and how things were built and how they're supposed to be, so that I have to figure out something. I have to be able to figure out can I fix it? Is it too far gone? Like, what stage are we at? This is something it just comes with your base of knowledge, and it's something you're gonna have to learn in order to either be in this business or just to build structures. Because, it's something like when I'm estimating this, I looked at this, okay? I looked around, I saw grass growing up in certain spots. I saw that this thing was walled off. I walked around the deck and I felt the soft spots and everything. So when I talked to the customer, you know, we had a discussion about, I mean, what if this whole thing has to come down? You know, so we were prepared. I prepared them, and they actually understood. They were even like, you know, hey, we don't know what's under there. They were like, you're gonna probably find something crazy. So from the start, we were on the same page, right? But I still started with, I was just gonna do the stairs. That's how this thing started out. And that's why I was kind of deconstructing these more carefully than I would have if I was just gonna like just, you know, 'cause we were actually even talking about using the deck boards again. But as you see, it got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to use these deck boards. I can't even get the screws out. So I have to just cut everything out. So it's understandable that when you go to do an estimate that you don't have x-ray vision, you can't see what's underneath this thing. And you're not gonna know until you get this thing torn apart a little bit and maybe go underneath or whatever, the full scale. But even then, your experience should be able to tell you that you need to let them know that there's something that might be catastrophic here, right? Look at this part of the deck, this whole, now I got the stairs off and everything, the risers. So now look, we know this front plate has to be torn off. Everything has to go. So we started with the stairs. Now we know that the border, the wood that borders it has to go. I paused it right here to show you this is old composite. No grooves, no nothing. But when the guy put it in, he just squoze it together. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just tight, so no air, no water could get through the top. But that just wasn't possible, you know? So that's what I'm showing you now, that there's no gaps. No gaps. The issue is water was still getting through, right? But not enough air could get through after the water got through. So all the wood just had water sitting on it forever and ever and ever. And don't be judging me, man. I put this ramp here for the dogs, man. The dogs, so they can still, I had to take a break from this deck and I had other things to do. So when I came back, you know, I just left it so that the dogs could go up and down, okay? But this is my face. This is when I gotta crawl under stuff, man. That's just the depressed face I have. But look under here, man. I mean, nothing grew. There's not one weed down here. So if you're trying to prevent weeds, maybe this is how you build it. All right, y'all. I'm under this deck. And whew, dude, these boards are in some bad shape. So let's look at it, see if there's anything we can salvage under here. This is not how you build a deck. All right, y'all. As you see, we have a joist, and we have several of them that are just rotted through. You know, and this is how you step on it where you get bad spots. Now, I'm gonna tell you now, all of them aren't bad. Some of them are ugly. Some of them are ugly. But ugly doesn't mean that you just throw the wood out, right? Now, some of these, now that's gone. I mean, that looks just like shredded wheat. So don't think it's supposed to be like that. Look how they ran this gutter. It's directly underneath of this crawl space. All right, now I moved over a little bit. See the gutter's behind me now. And we're gonna look up, we got another spot. Man, the whole beam is gone. Look at this one. Now, truthfully, we won't really be able to see this kind of stuff until we take off the top. And by the looks of these, once you start looking at these, it's like, we're gonna have to take the top off because we got to get rid of some of these beams, or some of these joists are a disaster. And if you see, look closely, you could see that some of the joists, they're not even touching the beam. And there's a reason for that. All right. But these are the worst ones. There are others that are not as bad. That's why it's still holding up. You see the ledger board against the back wall. I mean, it's crazy, but from under here, the ledger board looks like it's not bad. All right, y'all. So, I mean, really, there's about 6 or 7 beams that need to be replaced, as well as the exterior, the trim, the board going all the way around the exterior part. The posts and the actual main joists are surprisingly sturdy, even though I don't like this construction. Okay, we'll see that it's not really sturdy at all, but that's horrible right there. Like when they do that, the only thing holding up the whole deck is some screws. All right, well, we have more of the deck deconstructed. I've taken some trim off of the sides, you know, we got more rot. So basically at this point, I'm looking at all this and I'm just, I'm letting them know and I'm showing them as I'm going along. Look at the rot here. Now the posts are rotted out. I was, even fixing them would have been trying to perform a miracle, but I'd rather not fix them. I'd rather just pull them out and just do it right. Right. Some of these are saturated, they're super saturated, but they're still solid. So not, but I'm not going to use them again for the beams. I could use them for something else though. So I don't just throw wood away, all willy nilly. Sometimes you gotta, figure out what else to use it for. But yeah, I've been walking them around. This is a total deconstruction. And so now I'm deconstructing. This ain't TV. Like I said, I don't go up here and just take a sledgehammer and just start cutting up and turn this into a pile of splinters and spikes and death and rusty nails, right? I take the boards off and it doesn't take that long. Now here I was doing a little bit much, but because I'm pulling out the screws that are stuck in the wood, so I wouldn't have to do that later. But I cut these into manageable pieces that I got to throw in the back of my truck. And then I use this thing's called the Duckbill Deck Wrecker, man. I mean, they ain't a sponsor or nothing, but I mean, they can sponsor if they want to, because I actually love this thing. It pops these boards up like it ain't nothing. Just through the screws, just pops them right up. And I was able to, it just allowed me to knock this deck out pretty quickly. And deconstruct. Like I said, I do these things in a certain way. Like if you're gonna work by yourself, I have a massive wagon that I use. So you're gonna see me take these boards and throw them off to the side, but I'm not gonna throw them on the ground. I always see that. I never understand people, and when I was in construction, I used to see people do it all the time in houses, and they take stuff and throw all the trash on the floor and then have to pick it up again. Why are you doing it twice? Okay? You pick it up, I'm throwing it off of the deck into the wagon, then I just pull this wagon to my truck and just throw it in the back of the truck. I don't have to keep picking stuff up off the floor. And I know what you're thinking, throwing it in the back of your truck. You don't have a dump trailer? Why don't you just rent a dump trailer and put it in, and have that parked out there so you could just put it in the dump trailer? I don't need to do all that, all right? It's just unnecessary. I'm going by the dump. I could just stop by the dump on the way, drop it, keep it moving. And, it's not going to take as many loads as you think. So let's get this thing done, man. Let's go. My apologies for the light at the transfer station, man. This is one of the dumps in my area that I like to go to. and it's the closest one to the job. So the end of the day, throw all the boards in here, man, get rid of these things and get out of here. Each load though, I don't know how much they charge in your area, but I think this load was around $30. It was probably a little more. I think right 33. But when you're estimating these jobs, especially if you're doing something of this size, you always have to take into account the dump fees. And taking the trip to the dump, depending on how far it is away from you, you have to factor all that in. Don't get caught. I've been caught before not charging for dump fees, man. And then looking like, oh man, they got me. All right, y'all, look at the state of the deck, man. I got all these boards off. And as you can see, it's a wreck. It is. But it's not all bad. I mean, some of these boards are still solid. You can't hear me knock on that because the audio on this part got messed up, so I had to do the voiceover for it. But it's a solid piece, right? It's ugly, but it's solid. So, you know, and me, I'll repurpose it. I don't throw them all out because they look ugly, you know what I mean? But as you see, those posts, pretty much all the posts are rotted out, like right through the middle. It's crazy. But we're gonna walk around this side, man, and I wanted to show you another area. Now, I knew the ledger board looked good from underneath, but from above, you could see, you know, stuff growing out of there. So I knew the ledger board, there was gonna be some issues, right? You can see that. I just don't know how bad it is. You know, I'm hoping it's not bad, and I mean, goodness, I mean, if the sill plate is bad, and that's worse. But look at right here, that beam's not even touching the ledger. And the way this was designed, with these boards, with everything facing this direction, this is the design of a floating deck where the ledger's not taking the brunt, the ledger's not being used as a beam, right? So it's not taking an exorbitant amount of weight. So it's not really, the ledger's not on this kind of deck, the ledger's not really holding anything up. But so as you can see, the weight of the deck is all on the beams and on the posts, and you can see it dips down. You can see that curve. What that tells me is that these posts, these beams at one time were right up under that ledger, and the whole deck sank. That beam in the back is not even close to touching the ledger. Why did it sink? Anybody got guesses? You'll see it later, but it's definitely because of how these posts were put in. But you see this side, they actually have more posts on the side that they used to, I thought this was just holding up the skirting that was on the side, but it's actually helping to prop the deck up. Now, I was talking about this earlier, right? This is one of those things that come with just the basic knowledge of how things are constructed, right? You don't have to necessarily take a class on statics and strengths of materials and know the difference between compressive strength versus tensile strength, or what an axial load does to to something. You don't have to know all that. What you need to know is that something needs to have a strong base in order to hold up a heavy structure. Just for instance, check this out. Now look at these joists. That's how they were, right? That's how they was built. These joists didn't even make it to the beam. That beam is like 7 to 8 feet away. So these were just in suspension. You know what I'm saying? Both of these. I think there was another one too that was just, it was just overhang, where at any time somebody could have stepped on that corner. It could have been so much weight it just fell off. Look at this right here. I mean, I literally moved the board and then the joist, the beam just fell off. It fell off, y'all. It's crazy. And it was done with that construction where, look at those nails, man. There was 2 nails holding it in. Look how tiny those nails are. All rusted out. 2 of the tiniest nails you ever seen holding up a beam is nuts, right? So I'm not going to clown the last guy, man. It's not what I do. but come on, and you know, and it's so I want y'all to see these type of things, man, where this happens in real life, and I always keep the customer informed. So just keep that in mind. The whole time I'm doing this, the whole time, everything I find, I update the customer to let them know what's going on. Oh, this wagon right here. I can't quite remember the name of it. I'll put it up on the screen, but it's from Tractor Supply. But it's supposed to hold like 1,400 pounds, man. But it makes cleaning this stuff up crazy, because it's just you throw stuff in here, throw it in the truck. Makes it simple. I have no idea how this thing made it 16 years. It is a miracle. But you see little things like, look at these beams over here. Look at that. It's one screw. Right there, you got one screw. One screw holding that thing up. And they had a lot of weight on this thing, man. So God is good. You know what I'm saying? For real. This is a bad sign for what's underneath. Look at those ants. I removed the deck board, man, and it's like 1 million ants came out. It was just like, man, we've been here for years, y'all. So we know, if you know, you know. We know there's definitely some heavy duty rot under there. It's just, how bad is it? Well, let's look. As you can see, the rim joist is rotted out. Now, it's not actually the whole rim joist, because the whole rim joist is almost 12 inches. So it's about, I mean, the whole thing has to come out, but it's about, you know, 8-inch section of the rim joist all the way around, man. And it just because they didn't put a lick of flashing on here, not a stitch. So it just is what it is, man. But one thing I noticed, and it's not rotted all the way through, which I'm surprised. Like it's an engineered rim joist, and it's not rotted all the way through, but it is bad. So we got the scope of the job now. It's a total tear down, but now we also got to fix the house, fix the rim joist, and you know, but we're up to the task, man. That's what we do. So Daryl, also known as the finisher, it's going to be all right, man. Just stay safe, be blessed, and remember, if the trades don't work, nothing else does.